Willie D Live.
What's up, family? The late, great Michael Jackson has been caught in the crosshairs of Donald Trump, your president, scandal. But unlike Donnie Boy, Mike has a former employee who is speaking up in his defense. The Department of Justice released thousands of redacted files pertaining to the late Jeffrey Epstein on December 19th, thrusting the deceased superstar's name into countless headlines. Among the trove of documents were a photo of Michael, his children Paris and Prince, Diana Ross, her son Evan Ross, as well as Bill Clinton. A second and more shocking image showed the Thriller artist and the disgraced financier posing for a snapshot in front of a portrait of a woman. The images were taken inside of the well-connected businessman's Palm Beach, Florida home over 2 decades ago. Discourse about Epstein's rumored accomplices and clients connected to his nefarious dealings with underage girls lent itself to speculation about the king of pop. Matt Fitz, Michael Jackson's former bodyguard and friend for more than a decade, slammed narratives insinuating that the singer had personal ties to the convicted predator. The photos were taken during a 2003 tour of the late financier's home that was on the market, according to Fizz's recollection. Fizz said Michael was looking to purchase a residence and that the former teacher's abode was one of about 30 they toured over the course of a week. Michael wanted to live on Palm Beach so he could be close to his friend Barry Gibb, claimed Fizz in the comments section of an Instagram post. Michael and the Bee Gees guitarist had reportedly been working on music together. We never even knew who Epstein was. He was not famous then, Fitz wrote. He, like the other house owners we viewed that week, wanted a picture with Michael. Michael never had a clue who he was or the other property owners we met. Now here's where it gets interesting. The retired security professional said, the media made a big deal of the search for the home at the time. So he was surprised that the truth was not coming out as the images surfaced. And we know why. Because they want to create a narrative and they want Michael Jackson to be the bad guy so badly. And he was the bad guy. Not bad meaning bad, but bad meaning good. They couldn't get him. No matter what they tried, they couldn't get Mike. Did you know that the FBI surveillance Michael Jackson for 10 years? 10 years straight, trying to prove that he was a child molester. Yeah. They went as far as strip searching Michael Jackson to look for these scars that he so-called had on his genital area. But they couldn't find him. They couldn't find anything. That's because the boy lied, and the boy later admitted that he lied. Michael Jackson stroked checks to these youngsters to get rid of the case. The first case, he stroked like $25 million, and then he went to war. Like, no, I'm not paying it out any more extortion money. I'm going to trial. Some people say, well, if you're not guilty, why would you say you're guilty? Why would you admit guilt by giving money? Because when you give that money, that's an admission of guilt, where at least people are going to think that you're guilty. And that is true for a lot of people who are on like a Michael Jackson level as far as like having long paper. They'd rather just settle out of court and not go through trial and all of that stuff. They don't want to be subjected to the media frenzy and all of that stuff, and they got other things to do, so they just rather stroke a check. And that's a bad idea to me, especially for something as low down as violating a child. If you're innocent of violating a child, you got to fight. Violating anybody sexually, you got to fight. You period. You got to. If you're innocent, period, you should fight. Because the thing is, once you get something like that on your record and you get accused again, people are going to automatically believe that you're guilty. And even if you're innocent, if you get accused once and you settle, now the vultures see, oh, it's sweet. All I got to do is say he said something, woo, and I'm going to get paid. That's how a lot of people get down. a lot of those dudes, it was like at least three or four of those people who lied on Mike came back and said they lied. And, the media never fixed that. They never came back and apologized for dragging Mike, calling him a monster, calling him weird and all this type of stuff. They never apologized. I never, ever thought Mike did what they said he did because Mike was just different. I got it, fam, no grown man eat in a bed, eating cookies and ice cream and watching movies with little kids that he don't know. But Mike was a little kid. He was grown and he made grown business moves and all this stuff. But people said Mike had a childlike behavior. And I just never believed it because Mike loved kids way too much. Like really loved, Mike had a pure heart. And that's rare in the society that we live in. And it's hard to think of somebody like that because, we just go by societal norms. But there was nothing normal about Michael Jackson. I just believe that Mike loved people too much to hurt anybody. I mean, look how he treated animals. The man was different. The man, if I didn't know better, I'd say the man came from heaven. Straight down from heaven. We're going to get you to come down from heaven, man, and walk and give us some great music, entertain us, man. And then we're going to need you to come back up here, though, Mike. Yeah, I have no doubt in my mind that Michael Jackson was innocent of those crimes. And also, if he really was like that, you think he wouldn't have been on that island? They say he never visited the island. He visited the home, and only because he was looking to make a purchase. He wasn't visiting to fraternize. He wasn't visiting to kick it, mess around with anybody, kids or anybody. He was just looking to buy a home. So when you got the kind of money that Mike got, you're gonna be looking at homes that billionaires can afford. You did? So yeah, they should, all of those publications that spoke on Michael Jackson visiting those residents back then who made a big deal of it, they should be speaking out. They should be coming forth, but they won't. These uncivilized mutts are unscrupulous. That's why I don't trust them. They got the information. It's almost like dealing with somebody who, a prosecutor, right, who has evidence that could exonerate an innocent person, but they'd rather sit there and watch that innocent person rot in jail than, to come forward and admit that they were wrong. They care more about how they're going to be looked at, how they're going to be judged, or losing a percentage point on their convictions than to come forward with evidence that could free a human being from a cage. These uncivilized mutts, man. Ooh. It's bad, man. We got a lot of them. And it's not one or two. Look, we'd be all right if it was only one or two of them. 3 or 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 31. Hey, a couple dozen. But fam, it's literally thousands. It's thousands of them. And it's a culture. Back to the image of Mike and Epstein. This is why you have to be very careful about who you associate with, who you step into a picture with. It happens all the time. People take pictures and they don't think nothing of it. Next thing you know, a picture pops up and you're guilty by association. But that's kind of hard to do when you are as famous as Michael Jackson. It's very hard to do if you're a celebrity, period. But if you're Michael Jackson, that is very hard to be so selective with who you take a picture with because, everybody's a fan, right? When people come up to you, if you're a celebrity, they ask for a picture, you just take the picture. You don't go wait a minute, let me see your report card. Let me see your report card from the 10th grade. what kind of kid were you growing up? Did you curse around your parents? Do you have a criminal record? Let me take a look at that. You don't ask all these questions. You just take the picture and then you go on about your business. And then sometimes people look at that picture later on and this person commits a crime or is accused of something egregious, and now you're associated with it, and they just create an entire narrative around that one picture, a picture you forgot about. You don't even know the person in the picture. And sometimes you could know a person in a picture and they may end up getting caught up in something. And once again, you're guilty by association. And there are people out there who look to take advantage of people in vulnerable situations like that, right? As a celebrity, people walk up to you to take a picture. You just take the picture. You don't say, yo, nah, can't take that picture with you. You're a Republican. Oh, I'm not taking a picture with you. You're a Democrat. No, I can't take a picture with you. You're gay. No, I'm not going to take a picture with you. You're white. You're black. You're this. You're a Protestant. You're a Christian. You're a Baptist. You're a Muslim. You know what I mean? You don't go through all of that. Now, if you know something about a person specifically and you know they're rotten to the core, now that's different. And you take that picture consciously, you get in that picture with that person, now that's something different if you know. But, in a situation like where Mike was just house hunting, just think about that, man. Mike is dead and gone. And Mike ain't never thought about Jeffrey Epstein. Remember, his bodyguard said Jeffrey Epstein wasn't even famous when Mike took that picture with him. So I'm sure after Mike took that picture with Buddy, that was the last time he laid eyes on him and ever even thought about him. But yet here we are, a couple of decades later, Mike's name is being dragged through the mud for taking a picture with an uncivilized mutt who violated children. That's cold-blooded, fam. That's cold-blooded. Let's hope that when it's our time and we check out of here, that we don't get caught up in something that we had nothing to do with. No more talk.